So, I'm a 20-year-old photographer from here. I've been in Atlanta for the past 6 years. I kind of started right as I moved to Atlanta, just doing a bunch of different self-portraits. I was like too socially anxious to ask anybody at 15 like what does photography look like to them, or like to call people. I didn't even understand how TFP shoots worked. I thought I had to pay anybody I worked with. So I was just doing self-portraits purely. I got tripod, I got the app on my phone, running self-portraits. And so I was kind of quiet for a bit, just running composites, self-portraits, like I said, until I got offered to go on a tour with Cody Shane, which was kind of like the start of my career where I realized this was actually a reality. There's money behind this. I just understood that photographers at max made maybe 25, 30K a year. I thought like that's what it was. And so once I saw what that whole tour looked like, I understood that there was like a whole reality to it. So it's cool to be back here because I quote the start of my career to the first time I was ever in the studio, because it's the first studio I ever worked in. It was with Cody. And I was just kind of, Cam just told me apparently I was competing against another photographer that night to try and make it on that tour, so I didn't even know that, which was wild. But yeah, that was the start of my career, so it's super cool to be back here. And since then, I went on that tour, came back, learned I don't actually really like tours. It's exhausting. After the first 15 shows, there's nothing for you to do, like, especially with artists that just stay back and they don't want to leave the bus. They don't want to, you're in the middle of Colorado, have some beautiful scenery. They don't want to do anything. So it gets exhausting after the first 15, 10 shows because you don't know what to do. You can't really rent out different equipment to get creative or anything like that. So I learned I didn't like tours, started stepping more into doing unit stills for music videos, worked with Dreamville there, and then started working with Future, and kind of transitioned this past year into really just fashion stuff, because that's really where people actually respect your time. It's not a thing where it's you got 5 minutes to edit a photo. It's not a thing where they call you up the next day and they're like, yo, we need allocate $15,000. Figure out how to rent out this whole thing in a city that you're not even in right now. So I step more into the fashion world because it's a lot more creative in the sense of like letting you really build out those ideas. So yeah, been doing this for about 5 years. I think it's going pretty good. Happy about it. Yeah. So we're gonna start off basically just talking about financial literacy. Just kind of that's the start of it all, just so you can understand how to talk to the people that you want to work with. The main thing you gotta realize that it doesn't matter what point of the career you're in, work for free is not bad work. You can, as long as there's something that is beneficial to you, to your portfolio, to anything, work for free is never bad work. The people that I work on sets that will charge me $500 an hour have no problem doing creative projects with me that are just cool. I get them for 12 hours for just a personal shoot. They don't mind doing that because everybody prefers to do that once you get into these super high budgets and all you're doing is either commercial work or you're stuck in a pocket or you're not really able to express the ideas you want to do. So free work is never bad work, as long as it's only bad work when you don't want to do it, it's not beneficial to you, and that's about it. That's the only time it's really bad. It's just when it's not beneficial to you. But if it's something that you've never tried, if it's something that you think that there's exposure to it, if there's something that you just want to express creative ideas, don't be afraid of free work. Now, as far as actually pricing your services, I think one thing people gotta stop being afraid of is with people in their market, don't be afraid to talk money with people. At the start, I went to all the other photographers around me that I knew and I was like, what are you charging? What are you charging? What are you charging? And it's not a thing where you necessarily have to compete with them or undercut them or this or that. Just understand what it looks like to them, because somebody's gonna be in this always longer than you have. I still do that right now. There's so many things I haven't done that I still hit people and I'm like, is this good? Is this actually good for my time? I don't understand what my time looks like a lot of times. So yeah, just really talk to the people around you. That's the best way I know to really understand what you need to price your service, your just services in general. And then we're in negotiation. The main thing is you gotta know who you're talking to. If you're talking to the artist, they usually don't know what they're talking about. If you're talking to somebody at a label, you can talk to them directly. If you're talking to somebody who's just a creative director, you gotta understand how to approach them. So you gotta get them excited about what you're talking about. You gotta get them excited about their idea. You got to show them that you are excited about their idea. You have to cater to them. And so if it's a label, if you just want to talk money with them, talk money with them. They'll do that with you, and as long as you're able to work with them on how they need their services delivered and how they need their licensing and all that, go ahead, talk money with them. With artists, I even have taken many risks where it's like, I'll send them the mood board, everything creative, before I even bring up a single dollar, just to know that I'm pushing something further than what their idea already was. So I'm really providing a lot of value to it. So yeah, you really have to, it seems so simple to say, you really have to understand who you're talking to. Even if it's like over DMs, go to their Instagram, see who follows them. If you know reputable people follow them, then there's a good chance that they know what they're talking about as far as what they can actually provide to you. And it's not like you're not just throwing shots at the dark trying to hope that something clicks. Yeah, we can do this at the end of the class. I have 2 different projects here that are 2 different budgets, and we could look at it if we want, that are, just as I said, 2 different budgets, so you understand what lighting looks like, what different creative looks like, set design, makeup, all that. But yeah. Main thing is teams are like so important. At the start, it's really hard because you feel like you have to approach this by yourself. You feel like you have to, everything that you're doing, you feel like you have to do it by yourself. But once you get to the really big concepts and you stop being excited about, oh, I've never worked with a light, let me just try this and this little technique and this little technique. Once you stop being excited about those little techniques and you really want to see what does this mix with this look like, or this mix with this look like, you gotta understand how to delegate. And so managing a team is super important to just like, in general, as I said, understand what the client wants, so you can delegate your time. Delegating is genuinely the most important thing, I think, in any job. There's so much time that's wasted of you trying to just compete with people that you don't need to compete with. If you have the budget and you're a director, direct. Don't try and worry about color grading it, because there's people that don't care to leave their house and sit in front of a monitor their whole life and just want to color grade. Why would you compete with those people? It doesn't make sense. Same thing goes for editors. Same thing goes for retouchers. If you have a style, sure, collaborate with them, because there's still people that's all they want to do. And if you have other things you got to focus on, don't stress it just because you want to keep a bit extra of the budget. As long as you got your fee in there, cool. That's what you got to focus on. So I can't stress it enough. Delegate everything you can. And if you can't delegate, then understand where your limits hit, because the second you start doing too much is when a lot falls apart. And so I think that's a huge point to focus on. Basically, I feel like a lot of the team members I go with, depends if you're working with female or male artists or whatever the clientele necessarily is, you have to, the priority of whatever the budget goes to is what makes them comfortable. With females, you have to, like, majority of the time, focus on glam, nails, all that. That's a huge part that makes them comfortable. That's basically the start of it all. And then, if you have the budget for it, get a producer. It'll make your life so much easier. But if you don't, it's not necessarily as necessary. I think, like I said about people who just color grade their whole life, there's people that only care about looking at what lights do and understanding how to operate equipment safely. These are super heavy stands, super heavy sandbags. Like, anything gets thrown around, you don't look unprofessional. And then more than that, I've seen people like get knocked out on set. Like, you don't want to play around with a gaffer or with a light tech. You definitely want one of those, because it's completely changed my work to have somebody on that team. For both female and male artists, I think stylist, super important. Collaborate with your stylist if you can, really understand. Send them mood boards of what the styling should look like, because you want to be able to communicate that. I just had a shoot yesterday where the artist wanted to style himself. That's what he wanted to do. And he came super underprepared, so we cut the shoot like an hour short, because he was just like, I don't have anything I want to wear. I don't want to take any more pictures. Purely just because he didn't like any of the outfits that he brought. It had nothing to do with the pictures, because the pictures all are getting used for the album. Has nothing to do with any of that. It's just purely because he brought the wrong stuff in a suitcase. So if you can delegate to a stylist, it's usually good to do that. set design depends on where you're starting, your building blocks of your creativity are. If set design is a huge thing and it's not achievable at all, then that might be a higher priority than a lot of these. But for me, I like shooting really practical. I'll do set design when I need it, but I'll shoot a lot outdoors. I don't love shooting in studios unless there's set design. A lot of times these budgets don't necessarily have too much of a set design unless you're pushing art. Art department is extremely expensive. Unless I have a budget of more than 10,000, I very rarely allocate $2,000, $3,000 to somebody who's doing set design. It's so hard to allocate that while you're also worrying about stylists, which are expensive. The way that stylists work, just so you understand the money, whatever the piece actually costs, if they want to rent a Rick dress that's $4,000, it's 20%. You're paying 20% of that. So that's also all being charged to you. And so if you're asking for 6 looks, the stylists get expensive. And that's just what you're paying for the clothes. That's rental fees. Then stylists are also going to charge you, depending on which one you work with, could charge you $1,500, $2,000 on top of that. Now you got $5,000 of your budget that just went to styling. So you really got to understand where any of that goes. Like I said, it all depends on priority is what makes the client comfortable, and then priority is what is your building block, your first building block for all that. And then simple, and this sometimes, I love getting people money with this, but also there's a lot of kids who are hungry that will do this. I'm still hungry to do this sometimes. Is just PAing, photo assisting, whatever it needs to be. Just have people extra hands on set. And it's better if they know what they're talking about. If I can tell somebody, grab my 17 to 35 millimeter lens. If they can do that, simple. But just extra hands on set. You never know if you gotta run downstairs to grab a water. You don't know if you gotta do any of this, and you don't wanna break. Once you're already kind of in the momentum of the shoot, everything's starting to feel good. The first 15 minutes of every shoot is gonna be fairly rough. So once you get in the momentum, you don't wanna break that with stupid things like making sure I get somebody from downstairs that they just showed up to the shoot late, or doing little things like that and worrying about coming down from a ladder to move a stand, or like I said, extra hands are always super helpful. I think the main people you gotta think about who you're working with is people who can adapt, and people who can adapt are usually down to collaborate with a lot, because they, like I said, they're down to play as many roles as they need to. So I think the idea behind incentivizing somebody is, like I said, if you can get exposure out of it, sure, that's a great incentive. But if not, make it feel like it's something that they haven't done before. If I go to a normal glam makeup artist and they have, I just say, do what you do at these shoots that you post on your page, they're gonna ask for money. But if I'm like, I got this idea, can we try this? If they're excited about it, you gotta make them excited. Like you said about the other clients, you gotta make them excited. They're excited, they're incentivized. I have teams from here, New York, LA, that are all down to do the most random shoots. And it doesn't matter who's there, it's the most random shoots. And if there's no budget behind it, we're still most likely gonna do it. It's gonna be cool. We throw it on a portfolio and it just runs the money up overall. And main thing that I didn't talk about with teams always get way more money. One person, they don't understand why we might need to give somebody one person 15,000, 20,000, 10,000, 7,000, or even 5,000. They don't understand those numbers for one person. What does one person pull from that? How much are they bringing in home? How much are they using on the shoot? They don't understand that. Now, if I come to somebody and I'm like, I got 8 people I gotta pay. We're here on set for 12 hours. I got 8 people I gotta pay. I'm on tour for this long. I gotta pay an editor home that's gotta deal with the documentary because I gotta focus on this or that. You gotta understand that teams always make more money. So if you can get around a team, you will usually just get way more gigs in general. And then, I think, like I said, building blocks. I think a huge thing is, for your creativity, where does it start? Like I said, for me, a lot of my shoots start with, does this location look cool? Now, how do I exaggerate at this location? How do I minimize at this location? How do I really use this location to its full extent? So that's a start for me. I will usually, all my concepts, all my mood boards, all that come from a location usually. But it's different for other people. I know that people will focus on makeup. And as I said, if that's it, then makeup's way more of a priority to you. So you got to understand what's your building block, same as producers, music producers. Some producers don't know how to play a single key on a keyboard, but they're going to start off with loops. They could have the hardest drums. They're going to start off with loops, though, because that's the start of their whole creativity. You don't understand where everybody has their own start. So whatever the start to your creativity is will usually be your priority for a lot of shoots. We want to run into exercise 1? Yeah, let's do it. So this is borderline the exact mood board I just got 4 days ago from a brand. I switched around some pictures, but I just want to see, I want to show this to you guys and tell me in your list what's the priority as far as who to bring on a team and who to involve with all that. So there's multiple keys to this. Let's say it's a branded shoot and the headline is they want to do clothing shoot with experimental colors. So let me know what you guys think would be each priority for this. We can run this for 5 minutes. It's borderline the exact mood board. Prime, you got the timer going? Let's do it.
5 minutes, right?
Yeah, let's run for 5 minutes. We might just need 3. Okay. Try and focus on what you can achieve by yourself versus what you need other people there for, or other rentals. It's not just people, other rentals in general. Like, see where you allocate majority of the budget to, and maybe just list it off in ranking. Huh? 1 minute left. Does anybody need more time? All right, let's do it. You can stop. Let's do. Somebody want to share? Yep.
I said first things first is, of course, lighting.
Okay.
It's the major thing that I see. You'll definitely need someone that's great with graphics.
Okay.
As for the style of shoot, like you said, we're in that momentum.
Yeah.
You don't want to, change. You don't necessarily want to get out of that flow.
Yeah.
To be able to get a different lens to capture a different, a shot or whatever.
For sure.
So yeah, that's where I put it.
How would you approach shooting this? So like right now, how do you think they shot this?
So with the guy with the hoodie, I would say the first thing that I would do essentially is find the location.
Yeah.
Location scouting for me is very important. I like to shoot outside too.
Yeah.
So the first things first would be the location.
Mm-hmm.
I see there's contrast of blue and red. You don't necessarily know what he's wearing, so the stylist isn't really needed. He can literally pull up with whatever he has on. It almost looks like a test shoot in a way for an upcoming shoot maybe.
For the image on the top right and bottom right, how do you think they went about shooting that?
A few different ways. I think one, they could use like a coroplast or something. Okay. And have it put up on maybe blocks, and they go under and they shoot it that way.
Yeah.
And of course, graphics in the back. I think that's the main two.
You're saying graphics as far as just to change out skies and everything?
Like the background. Gotcha. And there's not any like extractions on their legs or hands or anything like that. Yeah. But you can tell like the person maybe went in the background and like sort of had that little 3D effect to it or whatever the case may be. It could be an infinity room that they're shooting in also. Yeah. So yeah.
Fire. I appreciate you. Yeah. Somebody else want to share? I'm gonna pick out somebody. Yeah, let's go. One second, let me grab the mic real quick. We got to get the recording in,
I think the set design is going to be pretty important.
Yeah.
Really with all of it, because let's just say you're trying to get multiple looks in that shoot.
Yeah.
It will kind of be pretty good to have it like set up differently so that you can have the shoots that's on like the right side and the ones with the lighting. Like, I think you can kind of knock that out while keeping your momentum. If you have somebody who's doing set designs, you could have it, set up so you're not switching it out and whatnot. Yeah, that's what I've really been thinking about with it.
I'm going to call you out. Justin, go about it. I didn't even see you, George. Go ahead.
All right, see, look. I think those guys really got a spot on. But I say for them right to, either you could do it by yourself or extra hands would be helpful, because it could be like that girl.
Yeah.
It could be two people holding like some plastic and she stand on it.
Yeah.
But those guys most likely is probably on some blocks or something. But then top two on the left, definitely lighting. Like he said, with the contrast of the red and blues. And then I was trying to figure out that one in the bottom left. Definitely graphics editing, because I can't tell if that's a sky or what.
Yeah. So I think the main three things, and it depends what you already have in your kit, but to me is, for the right to, you got to figure out that plexiglass platform. That's where a lot goes into it. I think as far as lighting, for the red, you're going to have to figure out some super strong outdoor strobe. Obviously, they need it outdoor, so some strobe that you could throw a gel on. If you can get an RGB strobe, then sure, but throw a gel on. But yeah, I think location, which is like set design location, and lighting is definitely two most important, because brands will usually handle the styling on that end.
At what point and when did you kind of create your own, or when did you develop your own creative style, or when did you acknowledge that you had a creative style?
I think I still don't think I have a creative style. People say I do. I don't really, like, because I'm still at that point that I'm super excited about the little things. I can see a location, I'm just super excited about that. I'll just go shoot there, and I'll double back once I want to go big with it. But I think I'm still super excited about little things in this. It could be a new lens, it could be a new camera, it could be a new film I'm shooting on, it could be anything like that. So as far as creative style, I think the best thing to do is imitate. It's not copy, but imitate. That's why I was like trying to gauge how you guys would approach shooting half of that, is because there's 1,000 ways to solve each puzzle, and everybody has their own process, but it's like, how would you approach solving that puzzle? And so that's kind of how you build your own creative style, is you go to the whole left side of the spectrum. You could look at photographers that are super clean, like a Jonathan Mannion, and then go to the complete right side of the spectrum, which is like super experimental photographers, if you want to talk about like Choji Suck or any of them, like any of these super experimental, and approach both. Find a middle between everything. You want to imitate just so you understand how to approach something, because everybody has their own process to clear a project. So I think that's the best way to build out a creative style. Let it happen naturally, and don't let the project dictate too much of your creative style, in the sense of let it change you. But if I'm going to shoot, I never do events. I shot one of the weekend's after parties that like at the end of the tour. I still did that in the same way that I shot his show, his concert, So it's like, it's the same colors. It's not just clean press photos. That I didn't change my whole style for that. Still kept it there, because at the end of the day, that's why they hired me. So whatever you have the most fun with, understand that's why they're hiring you. And truly, my whole perspective is on, I don't really care about the client. I'm just going to fill up the image with something that I like, and hopefully they like it. Because at the end of the day, like, what am I going to stress myself over? So we got a question in the back. I appreciate you. Thank you. Yo.
All right, so I know in the beginning you said something about like, TFP, not having money for a shoot, you'll still do it. But if you had a budget, what's the lowest budget that you would, work with? And if you would, does it just depend on the deliverables? Like, what's the lowest budget?
Depends on the gig. Like I said, 0 is the lowest budget I do something for. But it all like if I'm doing something for 0, it's either because it's a really good friend that I gotta help them out with something, or it's like it's something I want to test out. People are coming together. It has to be a bigger idea if I'm doing something for 0. It's not just, I'm not going somewhere for free just because it's that location. A starting budget, which everybody has to build into it, because you have to, as I said, you have to find your approach of it, everything. Like a starting budget for me right now, kind of aim around like if they can provide like around 2,500. That would be, and you decide how much you want to pull depending on the project. And some projects I would get a $2,000 shoot, and I would pull maybe $400 for myself, just because I'm excited about the artist I'm working with, the model I'm working with, whatever, and I'll genuinely pour so much of that money into that shoot, because that's going to come back on the back end. If you can make a shoot that's $0 look like the same shoot that's 10,000, you're in a great place. And a lot of times you're going to have so much downtime that you have to shoot personal projects. And so you have to make sure that your personal projects are actually better than your actual projects. Like that's the main thing. You want to make sure that you constantly are shooting personal projects, maybe if you have downtime, once or twice a week. And a personal project can be a test shoot, or it could be an idea that came to your head. It could be meaningless. It does not matter. As long as it's something that you get to exercise something new, do it. So I think it's a subjective question, but deliverables is a huge thing. And deliverables will usually dictate how much you need other people for. So if I get that $2,500 budget, obviously there's more people involved. If somebody's like, yo, pull up, I need you to shoot him real quick outside of here, which is usually gigs I don't really do anymore, but that's just me. So if it's already clearing my fee and I can just do it by myself, then I'll do it. But be flexible. You always just be flexible with everything and understand what's worth it to you, but flexible is what's going to get you like through this industry, I think. Who's got a question? Yeah, let's hear from you.
Yes. So how do you go about networking in big spaces?
Big spaces as far as just define big spaces.
Like rooms that you're in with like big artists or with big brands.
It depends why you're in that room. Like I think that's a huge thing. Like you really got to evaluate why you're in that room. There's a lot of times when I was working on tour work or documentary work that I knew that the respect from that person, that the other person in that room that I want to work with, would come once they see the product. They see that you're quiet, that you do your job, and they'll be like, oh, let's hire him. But if I'm just in a room just because I got invited there, you have a lot more freedom to talk, be involved in the conversation. But if you're there for a project, it's annoying when a photographer is just talking the whole time. They're just recording you and just interrupting every clip, and everybody starts looking at the camera because you're just talking. So it's like, you got to understand why you're in that room, and then let it be natural. Don't be afraid to show them your work, but like also don't let that be the start conversation where you just rush in there and like, look at this, let's work. Like, so I think everybody has their own approach to it, and I know it's a super vague response I'm giving you, but know why you're there and understand how on the back end or on the front end you get that like conversation going. Yeah.
All right, so this is more of a business question.
Yeah.
So when working with like companies or labels or whatever,
Yeah.
and you do photo shoots for them, and I gotta put this. So when they do buyouts, how do you? Well, is it always a buyout, or is there a way you can negotiate owning your photos?
I was going to talk about this a bit later too. So I'll just give you a brief because I'm going to get into it a bit more. But for those, at the end of the day, if that's what they want, that's what they want. If they want a buyout, just tell them what it would cost to be a buyout. And I still fully, even at my point in my career, I still don't understand fully the idea of what licensing costs look like. It also depends how much I care about the project. If it's something that I just know is not going to go into my gallery in 15 years, or it's not going to sell for $30K on my own end, like, I don't mind doing something that just clears my fee. But as long as there's no contract, and I'll repeat this because whole lawsuit with it. As long as there's no contract, you own it. As long as there's no text either saying that we own it or that you transfer the ownership to them, you own it. So if they come to you saying they want to buy out or licensing, just tell them what it would cost. And if they're like, we can't afford that, then tell them we're going to have to do a different kind of a creative license. Maybe you can list the projects that they're allowed to release this under. It could be for the cover, but it can't be for billboards. It could be for the cover, but it can't be for merch. So understand where your limits are. But if that's what they want, that's what they want. You just tell them your price, because it's your art at the end of the day. And if they don't buy it out, it's going to sell for $40K in your gallery, $50K, $100K, however much money it is. So there's always money in the long term with it. Let's get back into it. I appreciate you guys. Thank you. So I think this is a cool slide because it's the first time I've ever had like it's not an identity crisis, but I've fully taken a step back this past month and like I have tried to change up my Instagram, how it looks. I think the overall consensus is if it's cool and it's you, it's Instagram. Just post it. Like, it's not that deep. If you don't like it in 10 days, remove it. If it didn't do what you wanted on likes, which doesn't matter, remove it. Like, it's Instagram, it's social media, whatever it is to promote yourself, just put it up, because nobody's going to look at it like an album. That's the one thing we're lucky lucky in our industry, and really any industry outside of photography and fashion, or any industry outside of music and fashion. Nobody looks at like sales. Nobody's going to be like, oh, I don't want to work with him anymore because he completely fumbled that picture. Like, it was terrible. Like, nobody cares. It's not like you sold 4K sales on an album. Their fans are now digging in on you. Like, you could have had a bad picture, but if you liked it enough to post it, it's you. Like, you can remove it later. Just post it. It's really not that deep. It's not an exhibit. You don't have to have too much purpose behind it, unless that is what your Instagram is. Which, if that's it, commit, because the first person or the last person to do it is the first person to do it. In any situation, if somebody did it 15 years ago, and I do it now, and I do it 10 times, people are gonna know me for that, not that photographer, most likely. So, whoever the last person to do something is most likely the first person to do it, in the sense of originality. And like I said, don't copy, obviously, but if you need even Virgil talked about with his 3% rule. If you got to take something, change it 3%. Change the pose up, change the lighting up, change up anything, and that's now your image, and it's slightly different from this. It's a great approach to really committing to and having a digital presence in that. And then I think the main thing is that we got to talk about for this is you got to understand your marketplace. When I came to Atlanta, came from this terrible town called Beaufort, South Carolina. When I came to Atlanta, the main thing that I saw nobody doing was compositing, which is like, I'll take a photo with somebody and I'll get 15 images that are, usually royalty-free images. I'll get 15 images and I'll mix it all in together so it looks like one whole image. You'll see it a lot on Instagram with like landscapes. People shoot a landscape of like, this looks cool, but let me composite in a new sky. And now let me composite in another mountain back there, maybe some goats here. So I came in doing a lot heavier compositing because I knew nobody in Atlanta was doing that. So you have to understand how you position yourself in the marketplace. And sometimes it's outworking people, sometimes it's rarity, sometimes you're lucky. You can be the best at something. You can blow up for being the best at something. You can blow up for being lucky, or you can blow up for being original. And all three of those, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of people all across, just creatives, that blow up from being lucky, and that does not mean that they're bad. It's just good timing. A lot of people have better timing than others, and that's about it. So you really got to understand how you position yourself in the marketplace, and then look what other people in your city, like I said, talk money with people. I just remembered it, and I was looking at my DMs right before this. The first shoot I had, I DM'd Cam, And I was like, so how would you approach this budget? Cam being Cam, which, you know, he's huge, and I'm like a 17-year-old photographer, like trying to judge something which he's so busy. I don't think he gave me a very like general response about how it should be approached, which is everything is so vague in this industry in general. And so I say that not as a diss. That was just like a thought I had of, I wonder what Cam Kirk charges. What does a Cam Kirk shoot look like? He has a whole studio. How much money does he bring in for a shoot? So I remember definitely understand how you position yourself in the marketplace and how many people are doing what you're doing and what are they charging, who are they working with. And it's about remarketing. Find something that you like and bring it to a new market. And then as soon as you're there, you can evolve into whatever you need to evolve into. So I think that's a huge thing with that. And as far as really pitching yourself, you got to understand your client. That's a very vague thing. You got to understand your client. You got to make sure that you can get them excited. This artist I just worked with is probably the most reserved artist I ever worked. I think we talked maybe like 15 words on the shoot. I know he was so excited for it from like the team, and I know he loved it afterwards, but I think we talked maybe 15 words on the shoot. He's so reserved, and so it's so hard to gauge if somebody's excited or not, so you have to really just pander to whatever they need. And pander to them too. Sometimes with these artists, I'll go to their style. If they're used to shooting something that's way more low budget, all I'll do is I'll go to similar locations, similar to that, and then I'll just up it one thing. I'll change it one thing. I'll change one little part of the shoot. So you gotta understand your client. And like I talked about earlier, if it's a label, if it's the artist directly, you want to build a relationship with the artist because they might not stay at that label, and you might want something. A lot of these artists will shoot for free too, randomly. I could hit a lot of artists I know right now and be like, yo, what are you doing tomorrow? We can shoot. And that, again, is a free shoot that's going to blow you up. So you got to understand your client. You got to make them excited. That's the main thing. Just make them excited however you can. I think, what's the next one? Oh yeah, we're gonna get to this in 1 second. I wanna go back to this. As far as what you can provide to get them excited, you need to understand where your flexibility is. I know for me, I could come in on an editing side, I could come in on a photography side, I could fully take a step back from the camera and just creative direct the whole thing. I could photo assist. I know I'm confident in my lighting design, and I understand that is what I can provide somebody. So if I really need to show it to them or show that it's possible, that's what I understand that I can provide to them at that point. And also, a lot of people will respect you if you can take a step back from what you usually do. If you're doing creative direction, and handling somebody else to shoot it, they'll also be excited about the idea that you see a bigger vision for whatever they see. You have to make the idea bigger than what they have already. We're gonna move into communication. Tough conversations, I think it's simple. Is the check right? I think it's that simple as like, is the check right? And it's usually only tough conversations for people that really want to like change up your styles. If you want to change, if somebody asked me to change up my style, shoot something completely different. I had a artist I was working with, and I don't necessarily do too much day-to-day stuff. That's not me. I like taking time with a lot of it. I had an artist I was working with who wanted me for day-to-day. And so I was like, cool, if you want me for day-to-day, you're gonna have to pay me this. And it's not necessarily a diss necessarily to people who work day-to-day or this or that. Like, that's just what I need to work day-to-day with somebody. Like, you have to understand how much you're changing up your style for somebody, how much you're changing up your workflow, how much you're changing up your mental health. Bro, your mental health will catch up to you quick on this, like in a lifestyle where you're flying around nonstop for shoots. Like, it will catch up to you and it will ruin work, ruin sets, all that. And so that's one tough conversation to have. I've had conversations where something just went barely wrong on set. Somebody might have been barely uncomfortable because of, I don't remember, I had a location that for some reason the studio had put a camera in the changing room, and I'm focused on fully setting up the set and everything, and the the artist I was working with got uncomfortable with that. Completely understandable. It's not that crazy to, but and that kind of took a step back, and we ended up shooting the next day at a whole different spot because it was just, that's the type of thing that a lot of these artists are so insanely emotional that if something just messes up once, they want to, I've had them cancel shoots on the spot, reschedule here. You've got to keep their mental health up with you. You got to, as I said, make them excited, push them through. A lot of these artists are not used to doing photo shoots for 8 hours, 12-hour sets, 6-hour sets, whatever. A lot of them are used to walking out of a Tahoe, get the pictures there, walk into the building, that's it. Like, so you really got to build up their longevity for shoots. And I think that's a tough conversation to have because you never know what's going to change up. And non-negotiables really depend on the artist. The overarching idea of it is, what does your work define? What does it mean? What does it look like to you? That's usually your non-negotiables, and that's a very broad answer. But how much does this actually hinder your career? There's artists that you might not want to work with because of their rep. There's people you might not want to work with because of their rep. There's people you might not want to have on set or even, associate. I've had shoots before where I changed up my style for somebody because they were paying nice, and I told them I don't want to tag. I don't want anything to do with this. And so that's a non-negotiable for me. Like, I don't care about this, so take the pictures. Like, I'm not giving up the licensing obviously, but that's your non-negotiable is what does your work, what does your career look like? And then the other non-negotiable for me is like, does it make you or the person you're working with uncomfortable? Is it like a light you're being shown in that is just not good? Is it that the work itself is not good? Is it going against the meaning of the project? Discomfort is like, let me take a step back. As a photographer, I think the most important thing you need to do, director, photographer, whatever, as a creative, is make the person you're working with super comfortable with you. That way when you throw random poses that are gonna challenge them, or they've never stood on something or jumped off something or done something that they're so used to, just Instagram photos, you gotta make them comfortable to work with you in that sense. And so if anything makes the shoot uncomfortable, like I was talking about with that previous shoot, that's a non-negotiable. That's where we change up things fully. That's where things have to take a step back and reapproach the project however we need to. So, yeah. As far as reaching out, I do have regrets about this, but I don't. The whole first 2 years between 15 and 17, I think there was about 150 artists, and I have a huge email list too because I ended up paying for one of those, like a celebrity booking email things. I just pulled all the managers' emails from. From 15 to 17, I was sending, unsending, and resending a message every single day to, I think, about 100 to 120 different artists. And it's like, did I get blocked from a few? Sure. Do I care to work with them right now? Not really. So I'm still up. But that's how I got the first gigs. Dreamville, that whole gig was just purely off of, I think I DM'd Jid 8 months before he was ever like, yeah, pull up to a set. I think they might have just had somebody just fully, cancel on them, and then they were like, okay, cool, let's have this kid try him out. So you got to understand that cold outreaches is just take it on the chin and just do it. Email whoever you need. Come prepared. If it's for people you're trying to work with in the sense of like a team, and you just want them for a specific role or for a personal project, have everything you can do already prepared. So, if you need them for makeup, come to them with a makeup mood board already prepared so they understand you're not just trying to hop on the phone and let them fully direct it. And so you want to come prepared to anybody, really. I think it's short, sweet, throw out the details. Maybe you can talk about your rep a little bit. And then other than that, I think it's super simple just to take it on the chin, reach out. You might get no response. It's nothing personal. A lot of people haven't responded because they just don't know me personally. It's nothing personal in this business. It's all continue to reach out. And as long as it doesn't like hinder your image or make you feel like you're too thirsty for opportunities, then keep doing it. I think one of the last points we want to talk about is etiquette. Just play your role. Play your role. That's what's going to get you a lot more jobs, is just continuously playing your role. And the other thing is, like, with team members, you've got to establish this with them. You need people to communicate with you immediately. I had this light tech once that I showed him the idea. And this is a set where we're dealing with 6 lights. It's all outdoors. And he's like, yeah, I can set it up. I got it. We can do it. And we wasted about like 30 minutes where I could really see that he wasn't confident in his ability to do it. We wasted about 30 to 45 minutes setting up a set that we didn't shoot a single picture in, because it was just like, or setting up a lighting set that we didn't shoot a single picture in, because he just didn't want to communicate that he couldn't do it. And if you can't do it, sure, it might be embarrassing or anything like that, but at least you're not wasting time, because if you can't do it, falls back on me, I'm going to be pissed at you. The artist is already pissed at me. The management is pissed at me because the artist is pissed. So you got to communicate constantly with your team, with the artists. Let them know what's going on at all times. And if you can't do something, don't waste your time trying to do it. Experiment, don't get me wrong. But if you try to all your efforts towards it, get out as soon as you can. And on tour, like for tour set etiquettes, I think, or for tour etiquettes, not set etiquettes, for tour etiquettes, it depends on the team you're playing with. And I think, like I said, you have a role on that tour and you're there for 2 months straight. You really have to lock in and play a role. And that tours is where this whole thing turns into a job for me. It's no longer a thing where it's like super fun, because like I said, the second month, the third month of tours are exhausting to the point where just you don't want to do it anymore. So you just have to have the work ethic to just play a role. And if you can step up further, sure, you can communicate with people, but especially with bigger artists, they're calling you in for a reason. They're not asking for anything else. If they want a photographer, that's all they want. These are big artists that have been in the game for a minute. If they want a photographer, that's all they want. Don't come in there and do photography and then try to force your way into a creative director position, or try and force your way into a stylist position. Understand they came to you for a reason, and if you have to prove something to them, sure, do it, and then you can maybe convince them. But play your role, know your space, know the people you're working with. Being quiet will get you into a lot of rooms, or will keep you in a lot of rooms. And communicating as much as you can with the people. How we feel about running the exercise? Yeah, we want to run questions?
How do you handle, like, say you're on set with an artist, all eyes on you as a director, or whatever your role is for that day. We all know that stuff goes wrong. How do you handle crisis management?
I think genuinely in this game, being a good director and a photographer does not actually rely too much on how creative you are or how much you can do, but it's truly based on how well you can adapt. Every set is going to go wrong. I don't think I've ever had a set where I was like, oh, that's a perfect shoot. That went amazing. Like, every set is going to have one thing that went wrong. Somebody forgot to pick up a rental. A battery died out too quick. And so it's, you got to be able to adapt. You got to, for those tough conversations, like I said, understand that nothing is personal. And continuously maybe arguing or trying to figure out something with somebody is not going to get you anywhere. So you can try it or you can abandon it, but you have to make those decisions super quick. And I think once you know the people you're working with, you also know their abilities and can understand what we can actually achieve. So I think crisis management is the first thing to me. If something goes wrong during a shoot, I'll gladly take a step back and I'll approach it in a way that I'm confident. So if I've never tried this thing before and they're not liking it and something went wrong, like I said, like the dressing room or anything like that, I'm going to take a step back, adjust to something that I know I can kill, shoot that, and then go back into the experimental. But you have to really get them back in the groove of everything after that. But yeah, adapts. Any other questions? Yeah, let's do it.
You mentioned as far as switching up and your mental health will catch up with you.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know, what did you mean by that?
As far as just mental health in this game.
Yeah, you were saying as far as when you're used to doing something, then they want you to switch and do something that you're not used to doing.
Oh, like switching styles. Gotcha. Switching styles is gonna like I said, same with tours. Is gonna turn this thing into a job for you. If you fully have to switch what you love doing, switching styles is fun when you actually care for it or you're excited about it. And it's usually actually you're not deviating that far away from what you're already doing. But to me, like switching a full style is like, I had this artist I was working with and she was like, I don't actually care for any edits. Can we just get the raw photos? And just for like the JPEGs or anything like that. And to me, that's like switching a whole style because half the work for me is my color grades or how I adjust certain halations or textures, or those are all big things that go into art for me. So the second you switch your style to the point where you don't like it, and then you continuously do that for a person, then you're gonna run your mental health into the ground because your job and the whole thing that you felt like was good doesn't mean anything to you at this point. So I think definitely, you know, if the check is right, your mental health is gonna go up once it hits. But if it's not, and you're just continuously kind of disrespecting yourself in that sense, then yeah, I've gone to some like tough points, like especially on tours where like you hit lows on tours, 3-month-long tours, 4-month-long tours, you hit lows, because it's hard. You wake up at 9 a.m. If the artist is up until 4 a.m., cool, you're up until 4 a.m. You got to still edit at some point. You're up until 6, 7, wake up at 9 again. So you're out, not only depleting your body, but it's also the work could be meaningless to you. The label could hit you real quick and it has nothing to do with the team you're working with. The label could be like, yo, can we get like 6 TikToks for tomorrow just to post? Like, just comb through the whole footage of the tour tonight and maybe find like cool clips that we could throw on TikTok or something like that. And I don't care to do that. Go hire a social media manager. I'll send you the raw footage. I don't care about that. Like, but that's the thing where switching yourself up constantly, if that's something you constantly have to do it, then it's gonna run your mental health into the ground. But be flexible. If it's a one-time thing, a few-time things, and you just gotta complete the job to show them that you're there for the work ethic, then do it. But yeah.
Thanks. Thank you.
When like working with somebody who like is used to taking Instagram pictures,
Yeah.
how do you go about branding that person as an artist or as a model or etc.?
Instagram pictures as in Instagram photography or Instagram as in like iPhone photography?
No, like you work.
I know,
artists.
like fit pics. Are we talking Instagram
yeah,
pics?
Like taking like fit pics. How do you like brand that artist?
If they have a cool style, build off of that. You know, if they have a really committed, cool style that you know that they're not gonna go for a complete switch up, then do that. But sometimes what's gonna go crazy is fully switching them up. You really have to gauge it off the person. How much do you think they actually already can adapt to your work? Like if I just called up somebody right now and be like, yo, pull up to the shoot as a model, how much would they already fit into that scale of what I want to shoot? So that, and then once you talk to them, also understand what their whole perspective is on that, on the shoot, on their brand, on colors, on textures, on whatever you need to do to show them that you're so interested in this project that they want to work with you. You have to go about branding them in a way where they understand it. You have to make people understand, and if they can't understand, they better have like crazy trust in you. But yeah, you have to gauge it on what they already know, basically. Yeah. Open up whatever editing app you use. You have 4 minutes to edit a photo. And we're just gonna upload it from there. You wanna set the timer or should I? Yeah, because this is the reality of like, you never know how quick you gotta turn around some stuff where you've been on set or you're on tour and you just finished the show. So we're gonna judge it. Let's do 5. Let's do 5 minutes. It's a courteous artist. All right, throw in your editing. Go. gonna send you right now. You tell me if you can upload to this folder. Yeah, just tell me if you can. I'm gonna text it to you. If not, we gotta adjust the settings on it. Oh, yeah. Branding. So I'm trying to look at the edit settings.
No, it says save to our Dropbox, but I know when I do that, it's not going to pop up on yours.
So
Like, here, watch. I'm going to save it to mine.
how should I go back to Dropbox folder for everybody?
What damn I do the Drive?
Google Drive?
I would do Google Drive. We'll just make one of mine real quick.
Yeah. And then, but
3 minutes left.
we gotta send off the email to everybody through let's get Marley to send that off. You're gonna just do photo 1, photo 2. Two minutes. Anybody go tell them to. Perfect. Thank you. You wanna leave the timer here, just so we know. Last minute. Good. All right, stop that photo. Does anybody need time to download photo 2? All right, let's download photo 2 real quick. Let me know when everybody has it. We're just aiming until 8:30. Yeah, okay. We're gonna do 3 minutes of this one. And then he emailed it out.
He's right on the email stuff.
Okay.
So you can just post by the time that's done.
Cool. We good? Everybody got it? All right. This is the worst picture. You have 3 minutes. 3, 2, 1. Two minutes. I got 1 minute ago. You sending it out right now?
No, I did send that.
Oh, it did? Fire. 30 seconds. All right, as time, check your emails. There's a drive folder sent to everybody, and then there's 2 folders inside of that upload photo 1 to 1, upload photo 2 to 2. Who's used to editing a lot of like concert photography in here? Who wants to only do or mainly do concert photography? Okay, let's just go through the rest of them, just see what comes up. Yeah, I'm just interested in how people approach their process with it. It's cool to see how people edit your photos too. That one's sick. I love the colors on that one. Yeah. Who likes working with red tones on skin? Really? I hate it. I can't, bro. I can't. I hate it. Because I want to bring up how I went about it, because I hate working with red tones on skin. Let me bring it up on my phone real quick while it's here. Let me find it real quick. All right, so my whole thing with it, as I said, I hate working with red or purple tones on skins, especially during concerts, because you already have your ISO blasted up to the point where it's like, you know, before it gets too grainy. And so especially with Canon cameras, they handle red so badly, and they'll usually oversaturate to a point. So my whole thing was, I fully just ran it in a black and white, and then just ran a color grade over it. Like, I just don't care to even stress myself with that, and it's especially with like when you're editing quick and you want to make sure that the photos feel different or cohesive. It doesn't matter. Sometimes bringing it back to black and white and then just running a color layer over it is like really easy way to switch it up and just make it feel a bit different. Also, if you just run a super light hue, it gives it a bit more of a vintage tone a lot. Let's go to photo 2. This photo sucks. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that, but like the actual photo I took sucks. Like that sounded crazy. Hold up. I meant the photo I sent in sucked. It was basically the whole process behind it. It's a great color grade, but basically the whole process behind it is we took 800 ISO film, and I don't know how many people in here have experience with pushing film, but we pushed it at 6400. And so it's pushing it 4 stops. And so that's why it's so insanely, this is at like 8 p.m. I think the strongest light we had there was like 15 watts. Super weak, just in the middle of fog. That one's sick. I love that color grade.
Who did that one? Which one is it highlighted?
The one that's on right. Who did that edit? Oh, you did? Fire. Yeah. This was just more of like a personal experience. I just want to see how people approach my photos. Yeah, like I said, for this, there's this photographer that I'm a really big fan of. His name is Glenn Lushford. And basically, he shot these like really famous product campaigns back in '97. And the way he went about shooting them was pushing film like insanely high and shooting with such weak lights that probably like our phone cameras are even stronger than, our phone lights. So, and then also dropping his, I think we shot this this is a 1 second long photo, just in the middle of the night. Like, it was rough. But we had those super deep grains and the super muddy shadows, and we wanted to make it feel like it was just so distorted. So it's, there's not too many ways you can go about editing this. That's why it's always interesting to see how people do approach it. But yeah, let's, you want to run the last thing? Do you guys want me to go through like some of my photos? You guys can ask about the budgets behind them? Yeah. Yeah? Yeah. We can just run this for 10 minutes unless anybody has any questions. Cool. Thank you guys, I appreciate you.
Killing it, bro.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What are you, as far as like film, what do you normally shoot with?
Where did it go? Oh yeah, my whole RZ. I only really shoot medium format. This, I need to go get it fully repaired because on my shoot on Saturday, the first shot just doesn't work anymore. Just mid-shoot, and I was mainly shooting film. But I only really like shooting medium format. It's nothing against like 35. It's just, it's a slower process. I like the 6x7. I hate 6x6 photos. I just don't like square photos. But yeah, I think the RB is great. The Pentax 6.7 is great. But it's truly a cheat code. I could show you, like, I traveled with this while I was on tour in Europe, and I only really used this for photos. And it's like, you don't really want to edit your film too much because that kills the idea of film. The only thing you want to edit is what you can really edit in a scan, which is basically your temperature, your highlights, your shadows. That's about it. The second you start messing with colors too much, it gets to a point where it feels like way too digital, and that's a problem I ran into because I run very heavy color grades. So it feels way too digital when you edit film heavy because you're changing the pattern of how film looks like. And there's no film that looks like that thing, so it doesn't make sense as film anymore. This is on digital, but I shot this at a concert, and I wish I could bring it up. We took this photo, came back, and I ran it over a scanner about 15 times where I just extended it over a scanner. And this is that exact same compositing idea where none of this is like done in like Photoshop in that sense of like using effects in Photoshop. It's purely just mixing the photos that we did through the scan.
So the same photo or different?
This is the same photo. This is one photo. We just printed it out, and I ran like 15 different photo scanners. Let me see if I can find it just to show. Here, if you want to go out, I'm interested in which ones they're interested in. Go out to, oh yeah, go ahead.
I want to know how you shot the Lancy shoot with the piano.
That one? Okay, we can get to that one in a second. The Lancy one.
I want to do that one.
Did you see the
1 second. Which one? Oh, that one? Oh yeah, that one has gone good movement. It's gone good movement. So you want to do it with the piano one, or you want to do the concert one? That's right next to it. Okay.
Crazy.
That concert one crazy.
Yeah, the concert one was crazy too.
Go down to the Lancy concert one real quick. So this is all done in the reflections of the piano. And we just shot this randomly in New York. But if you scroll down just one to the middle, that center one. So this was shot at arguably, in my opinion, the worst venue in Atlanta. It's Loft. I hate shooting there. I absolutely hate shooting there because it not only sucks as a venue, like as far as press and all that, but it's a really ugly stage. It's like a dirty carpet, and it's like for an artist like him who his whole look is that he's borderline more of like a model superstar than he is like a rapper. So I fully just if you don't scroll through them, we just reflected a lot of them reflected a lot of them in post, and then just edit out his body. That's the only one that actually has like the stage in it. What was your question about the piano one?
I just want to know how you shot the piano one.
Oh, I prayed. That one, it was I just had somebody hold up the top end of the piano, so it reflected back, and then it ran through some pretty. I shot it once at fairly high of an aperture, and then I just ran different variations of ISO on it. I kept my flash constant, and I just ran different variations of ISO on it that way because the reflections are going to be a lot darker than the actual photos, or the actual skin or anything like that. So you don't want to blast anything. So I mix it that way, where you can kind of pull different ISOs, different pictures from. Yeah.
That was on that.
Yeah, that was on the piano one.
No, I'm saying it was on the film.
Oh no.
That was on digital.
No, that was all digital.
What's your favorite
Film photo that I've done? I don't have it. It's one I just got back. Let me see if I can find it. Scroll up a bit. Favorite film photo real quick. Scroll up. So all of those, go to the just go to the sky ones. Those are all film right there. Go down, the yellow on the left. These are all press shot on film. And so if you want to scroll through those are all on film.
What stock did you use?
Just Portrait 8. And let's go back out too. There's another film one that's crazy. Scroll up. All that one that I did with that actor in the middle is great. I love the textures and the colors off this. That we ran through a scanner too. I usually print and scan as much as I can. But yeah. Is there any questions on budgets or anything like that? Any photos that you're wondering what went into it?
Yeah, what went into that future one?
The future one? I was just on set. Nothing like much else. It was just it was never came out. I think I'm not going to talk about it too much. Yeah. Oh, this? The budget for it? I'm trying to think if I can say it. I can't remember if I signed a contract or not.
Is this digital?
This is all digital, yeah. This one, I'll say as far as production, as far as purely what goes into the photo, it was around, because there was a higher all-in budget, and I can't remember the total end, and I don't know if I'm able to disclose it, but what purely went into what you would need to create this photo, if you had the clothes there already, if you had the glam done already, whatever, it was only like around like $4,000 to $5,000 that we spent on actual photo production for all of it. And that was like a light tech, a lot of light rentals, studio rentals, yeah.
The Fago one?
Oh, those are all, so that's what I was talking about. This is all film in Europe that we just shot. Yeah.
Where was that? Where was the first picture at?
That was at Rolling Loud, Portugal. Like in the little rooms that we had there. Same spot.
Did you use 800 for these two?
I'm gonna be honest, the only thing I shoot on is 800 and Ektachrome. I love Ektachrome. I shoot Ektachrome E100 a lot.
Do you like to shoot film more?
Yeah.
During shows? Or do you like
During shows?
Yeah.
It's impossible.
That's what I'm saying.
I've shot film during shows. But if you're doing film during shows, it's you got to get one of those. It's so hard to do with rap artists because they want to move around so much. And so unless it's super bright out, I was able to shoot some of the Fago stuff on film because we're doing a lot of daytime sets during festivals, so I can crank my aperture up to 16 and not stress too much about focus, and I can stress about shooting. But it's hard. It's really hard to shoot film. So I mainly just shoot digital. The way you get rid of that digital feel is I'll send it off to a friend who has a printer and a scanner, whatever, you got to pay for that, but reprinting it, kind of bringing it back to a physical, gets rid of the digital feel and the sharpness and all that. So I think that's a really good way to approach it. Yeah, the future one was just that one was just on set about a year, 2023, 2 years ago. And I was with his manager, and she was like, "Can we get a smiling picture? The label needs a smiling picture." Because we have there's not too many smiling pictures of Future out there that's really cheesing like that. And then I just wanted to make it look like a graduation photo. Yeah. And yeah.
This is film too, right?
No, it's all digital. I didn't start shooting film really until June of this past year. I always wanted to. I was just like, I already travel around with so much equipment that it's hard to do that. This is, go to the one of the two girls kissing at the, that's probably my favorite picture, one of my favorite pictures I've ever taken. This is all just at a party outside. Yeah, it's just a party. That's all it was. Which one? There's 16. Go. Oh, the bottom right? So this is zero budget. We shot this on a basketball court. And then I've just fully edited out his body and just created it in post. Created the lighting and everything. There's no lighting or anything. It's just before I had any lighting or anything like that. It's just purely in post.
You made the shadows too?
Yeah, all of that. Go down if they want to see a composite, run down all the way to the bottom, the stuff I did for Race for Givenchy. That one. That's just purely, we just shot that on the street, just in the middle of the street. Yeah. And then it's just all post.
Where do you get your overlays from, Adobe Images? Or?
Google Images, and then Unsplash, you're going to find a bunch of stuff. Textures.com is where I found those bricks I did. What else is there? Unsplash, textures.com. There's Canva has some stuff. But it's really like, that's the one thing why I hate doing it. It's like, I'm good at it, but it just takes like the same way that a treatment takes forever because you spend 3 hours looking for the right photo to describe to your client what it looks like. It's the same for that. It's so hard finding something that makes sense because all these photos can be edited. They cannot be edited. They could be like an iPhone picture and you got to find a way to mix it all together. But otherwise than that, Prime, how are we feeling? Any other questions? Yeah.
Scanner? Is it? When you're using the scanner, what exactly is that adding to the photo? Like, is it texture?
So it's a texture thing. So when you shoot on digital, you shoot at aperture of 8, 11, 16, any of that, you're gonna run into like a sharpness that's unnatural. And to the style I really like, I like the idea of like separating textures heavily. The shadows look like one thing, the highlights look like a different texture, and so when you scan it, it makes your shadows more muddy in the sense of kind of like if you go to the photo we edited, go to the top, the point where like those, go to that, there's no definition in the shadows. Go to the black and white one too, that's like a good example of it, to the right. There's like no definition in the shadows. And so it kind of lets you create gradients and pocket the model in different spots. And so when you scan it, as I said, it makes the shadows a bit more muddy. It doesn't necessarily keep that sharpness that distracts from why is the artist as sharp as the background. Unless that's really an intentional choice. But it also creates photocopy. Like, if you know like Amber Asali, her whole style is like she prints on, I'm pretty sure, just normal paper, some form of like a non-luster paper. And so what happens there, she gets those super like, those paper textures in the pictures. Those aren't like overlays in Photoshop. Those are just purely from that. So it depends on what you print on too, because prints could look terrible, they could look beautiful, they could look like something you want to put in a museum, or they could look like, as I said, you just print it on normal paper and then scan it there, and you get different types of textures that kind of add a whole nother layer to the image. And so, yeah, I think that's like something I wish I started doing earlier. Yeah. Any other questions? Yep.
When you print the images out, how big? And then when you scan them?
I know it fully depends on how good your scanner is, on how big it can create. You can do small prints. Also depends on. There's a lot to it. It depends on fully what you want to do. I've printed small. That way I can extend it and kind of make the print exaggerated, and extended it obviously in post, so it also destroys more of the quality. I like destroying a lot of my stuff in the sense of I'll print it badly, and then I'll export it badly, and then I'll edit it good. So it's like it's different ways to really deconstruct your work. And so it depends on what you're looking for with your print. If it's like meant to just like look super beautiful, you might just do a larger print. If you're trying to get something that's a bit more distorted, you could do a smaller print. If you're editing 30 photos and you want to print them, it's going to take a lot of time to print big prints. So you might run small prints depending on how good your scanner is to scan, to do bigger scans. So yeah, it all depends. Like there's no necessarily right answer for that. Any more questions?
Neri, do you have any final words that you want to leave everyone with the class?
I mean, I appreciate you guys. As I said, it's like my first time kind of doing this, and I'm moving from Atlanta in like 2 weeks, so it's kind of cool to close out where, quote unquote, like my career like started in my mind of like seeing this. So I appreciate the team over at Kirk. I appreciate Kirk himself. I appreciate you guys for coming out. It's cool. It's really cool. Thank you guys.